Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Unanimated, Victory in Blood, out December 3rd on Century Media Records. This album has 12 tracks, 47 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album. They are a Swedish melodic black death metal band. As far as the structure goes, at first glance this album feels very robust. It's very compact. There's not breaks in between it. But there are a few pauses, and those pauses come in the form of interlude-style tracks that are a little bit more melodically driven, that break away from the intensity and aggression and darkness that this album has. When you look at how much volume comes out of this record as far as the sound is concerned, you really need a few tracks that break away from that mold in order for the listener not to feel like this album is too heavy, too hard to digest. And that's exactly what those tracks are doing, allowing the listener to feel like there's a break, there's a pause, that makes it easier to process all the aggression, all the intensity that came before, and the aggression and intensity that's going to come after. Building an album like this is very important in order to add playability to the record, adding a sense of continuity from track to track with the pauses coming in at the right time in order for the whole album to have more of a sense of direction and feel complete. As far as the sound goes, this album is very dark. The darkness is in the sound and then in the atmosphere that sound creates. Perhaps their darkest album to date. Now, there's also a lot of volume in this record. This album feels big, it feels robust. A reason for that is that it has 3 motors that drive the experience: the drums, guitars, and vocals, all of them operating on a different level, on a different plateau. This gives that large footprint that the album has, allows the record to feel bigger, but at the same time not muddied. These elements never really cross-pollinate with one another, allowing them to just have their own path, their own role, and that role having then a positive impact in the bigger picture of the sound that this album has. This doesn't mean that you're losing anything as far as aggression, as far as intensity is concerned. All of that is still there. The melody is still there. This album has all of that, but at the same time, the definition of sound, the definition of roles really becomes important in order for the listener to really appreciate everything that this album has to offer and not gravitate just towards one element or another. Now, those 3 elements, like I said, worked in layers. The bottom layer, I believe it's the drums, the middle layer being the vocals, and then the top layer being the guitars. The drums are really important. As the bottom layer, you want to ground the record, you want to create some heaviness, you want to be the strong foundation for everything else that is happening. And that's exactly what the drums are doing on this album. I love the sound, I love the execution, very balanced, very tight, very consistent from top to bottom. Then on top layer, you have the guitars, perhaps a little bit more diverse, pulling in different directions, sometimes raw, gritty, organic, melodic, heavy, brutal, all of the above. The guitars really have a lot of different faces, and depending on where you are from song to song, or even within the songs themselves, you're really going to get a different approach from them. But they're always that one element that the listener can hold on to, that it's going to take you to that final destination on every single song, and they become the motor that just picks the direction in which the tracks are going to go to. In between, in that middle layer, you have the vocals. And this is an important aspect because the vocals are very consistent. Outside of some clean vocals here and there, the overall experience is one that stays true from the first track all the way to the last. But being in the middle allows them to feel darker, more ominous, try to break through, bringing the lyrics to a different plateau, adding a lot more emotion, adding a lot more meaning to what the lyrics are representing. And for an album that has this sort of darkness in its sound, you have to have the same level of darkness coming from the vocals, and that's exactly what's happening on this record. Overall, that darkness of sound and darkness of atmosphere becomes the factor that makes this album memorable. You're really going to come back to this record because of how it makes you feel, how the sound propels you from track to track, the experience that you're getting with each and every single song. The fact that this record, outside of the heaviness and brutality and intensity that it has, is still very hooky and very catchy as far as the choruses are concerned. These are all positive elements that are coming together in one single album, making it a memorable record, a record that has great playability, a record that allows the listener to really engage with it, and it doesn't become cumbersome at any given point. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with 7 Mouths of Madness, a track that's both melodic and dark, and those are the 2 calling cards of this song, at least how it comes across. The heavy drums really pack and create the foundation that allows the guitars to be a little bit more driven, a little bit more melodic, pushing the tempo, pushing the aggression with the drums right behind it. The chorus is very catchy, and this plays really well into the overall design of the track. It allows the verses to be more direct, and then that direct movement that the verses have merge into the chorus, becoming almost seamless as you go from one into the other. All around the track becomes robust, it has a big sound, big presence, and it feels demolishing at times. Next you have The Devil's Rides Out, a song that's aggressive, intense, and melodic. These three elements really describe the different emotions, the different sounds, the different momentums that you're going to get throughout this track. The guitar riff is chilling. Every time I listen to this song I get goosebumps because of what it's coming out of those guitars. That guitar riff is just outstanding. The drums pack the power. They're the heaviness of this track, giving substance of sound to the entire song. The guitars shift direction. They create ebbs and flows throughout the entire track, changing from picking up the heaviness that the drums have and amplifying it, or becoming a little bit more melodic and a little bit more driven. That momentum between those two is really what creates the ups and downs that this track has. The vocals feel super consistent, they stay connected, and they stay in between those drums and those guitars. They're really the glue that holds them all together. Last but not least, we have Divine Hunger, a song that's just around the 2-minute mark, really short song, so it packs a punch. It's pedal to the metal from the beginning all the way to the end. There's no breaks, there's no pauses. It's just super aggression and intensity, and it just flies. It just comes at you, driven by the drums. The drums are absolutely brutal on this track, and then they're amplified by the sound of the guitars and by how much the guitars push everything forward. The vocals on this song perhaps jump a little bit more out of that middle layer, and they come a little bit more up to the top layer. I didn't feel like the vocals overpassed the guitars and drums, but they definitely played a role that was equal, at least side by side with those two elements. So it made the song feel less dark, more driven, and more balanced. Interesting approach for a song that's only 2 minutes. It works perfectly well, and it doesn't break the mold of the entire album, but it does give you something different to digest as you're going through it. This is it. Unanimated, Victory in Blood, out December 3rd on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.